to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Again, good morning, everyone. Consideration of agenda items.
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Motion made by Commissioner Wright, seconded by Commissioner Nagel to approve the agenda items. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Consent agenda.
No changes, Mr. Chair.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel and seconded by Commissioner Luthens to approve. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Colleen, Finance. Good morning, Colleen.
Is this one on? Oh, yep. Okay, so today I am asking you to consider approval of a quote to purchase an automated workflow system for accounts payable with Information Systems Corporation, ISC, out of Fargo, North Dakota, at a cost of $49,138.09, with funds from the Recorder's Compliance Fund 25102. This is a paperless workflow that will streamline the process for departments and administration. This system was selected because it is adequate for the desired functionality and communicates with the county's current financial system and document management system. Are there any questions?
Any questions from the board? I see you have our IT man there. You got any comments to it? I mean, personally, I trust the both of you, so.
So the system is just an extension of systems that we already have in place today.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
it's something that 2 weeks ago we went through in great detail in the workshop, and it sounds like it works for every department, and it brings everything to finance in a consistent package. So I would move to approve.
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel and seconded by Commissioner Smalls to approve the request. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Medical examiner. Are you going to?
You can call me Dr. Young.
Okay.
No.
Good morning, Mike.
I am here on behalf of the medical examiner, Dr. Quinn Strobel, and although our offices, excuse me, work close together, we don't have any authority over her office, and she has no authority over my office. So what the medical examiner's job is to be independent of all other county offices and to determine cause of death in cases where that is a question and where it matters. What you can see is her report that is here in front of you. They took jurisdiction over, or they were asked to take jurisdiction over 197 cases. And what does that mean? That a death investigator was called out to the scene of a death. A death investigator is a person hired by the medical examiner's office, trained. They are not doctors, but they are there to be the eyes and the ears of the medical examiner to make a preliminary indication as to whether or not an autopsy is necessary. So the medical examiners went out there, just about 200 cases. They assumed jurisdiction in 36 of those. And what does assuming jurisdiction mean? It means that they're going to transport the body down to Anoka, and they're going to do some type of examination of that body to determine cause of death. In the other cases where they decline, the cause of death is either known or it's not of significant public interest. If somebody is 99 and dies in a nursing home, the exact cause of death isn't necessary to be known. So you can see the types of exam. A complete means that they do an outer examination and they open the body and do an internal. A partial means it can be one part of the body only. It might be the brain, it might be a lung, And external means that they only look at the outside of the body. The interesting part gets into the classifications of the cause of death that they came up with, and what the trends are. And unfortunately, with the pandemic, the things that cause death amongst people that aren't of age that they ought to be dying, such as suicide, overdose, and traffic crashes, those have all gone up. The year before, you'll recall, she was talking about how Dr. Quinn Strobel, when she was, I don't know if she was here the year before, but anyway, the average life expectancy went down in the U.S. about 1.4 years. From 20 to 21, it went down an additional 0.4 years. So we are becoming less long-living people, and that's going to have some significant consequences in the future. The other thing that's interesting is that, particularly with suicides, those have gone from and ranged anywhere from 2 to 9 in a given year in the last 6 years in McLeod County. This past year, there were 7. And the causes of that, it's people of all ages. It's with weapons such as guns, it's by hanging, it's by pills. Those are the most typical ways of it happening. We had one homicide in McLeod County last year. That was in Plato on July 30th or 31st. And that has not yet been resolved. So that's what their report is. The other thing that we should talk about a little bit is the number of overdose deaths. And in the U.S., there were over 100,000 overdose deaths between April 21st and the prior 12 months. That's an increase of about 28%. This isn't in your materials. It's things I obtained off of the web. But it shows a part of the problem of the pandemic. People aren't getting the help that they need, and that includes the dysfunction in our court system. Another area where deaths have dramatically increased is traffic crashes. And she has those listed in her report somewhere. But when I started back in '82, we were killing about 950 people a year on Minnesota roads, give or take. That went down to about 300 in the early 2010s. That is now going up into the mid 400s as a result of worse driving, faster speeds, inattentive driving, and things of that sort. And those deaths tend to be across a wider age spectrum. It's the younger drivers that tend to drive with less care while impaired at faster speeds. So that's what her message is, and if you would slow down, if you would not look at your phones when you're driving, if you would use prescriptions as intended, we would all live longer, and we would have less numbers here on our medical examiner's report.
Mike, could I ask just one quick question?
Sure.
You said you work independently. She works totally independently. In one, like 200 cases in 36, she took in for autopsies. Is that strictly her decision? I mean, because sometimes families play into this. Does she keep that away from it?
If a family has a request, she will consider that, but it's her decision. If I have a request, she will consider that, but it's her decision. So if it's a homicide, there isn't any question that there is going to be an autopsy, because that is, number one, it's of public interest. 2, it's necessary as a part of answering the family's questions. And that's a big part of what their role is to deal with the deceased family, get the possessions back to them, and give them answers.
So, Board, do you have any questions for Mike? Thank you. Auditor Treasurer, Connie.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, members of the board. I'm here for one item today, clearly probably not as interesting as the report you just heard, but beneficial to the county nonetheless. So item A, consider adopting Resolution 22CB-23, authorizing me to make application to the Office of Secretary of State for the 2022 Voting Equipment Grant Account, referred to as VEGA. 3, in 2021, the Minnesota State Legislature appropriated an additional $1,935,058.86 to the VEGA 3 account to be used to offset the purchase of any combination of optical scan counters, assistive voting devices, or electronic rosters. There did exist a need in McLeod County for assistive voting devices with an opportunity to partially fund the purchase with the VEGA 3 grant. The $101,552 equipment purchase was approved by the county board back on December 13th of 2021. Noted funding sources of the expense is the VEGA 3 grant of $34,691.10, the Help America Vote Act or HAVA grant funds of $28,177.78, the special revenue fund that I had in the amount of $27,238.64, and then the remaining budget coming from the elections budget of $11,444.48. So I was notified on March 2nd of the $34,691.10 total VEGA 3 grant award to McLeod County, and I've been waiting for the distribution of the contracts, which did occur on April 25th. And then acceptance of this grant will benefit the McLeod County cities and townships that utilize the assistive voting devices in their precincts. Any questions?
Kind of do have one. Now, this is the impaired. What did it replace again? What did we call them?
So these are for the Omni ballot tablets,
Okay.
and they replaced the
I can't think of it either.
yeah
I'm
the
sorry.
auto marks.
Automark,
Sorry,
there you go. It
their
was
big
too easy.
machine.
Yep.
That mark.
Now, how does this, I mean, can you give me a layman's terms of how this helps? I mean, the old ones, were they by statute outdone, that we had to replace them anyway, or how did we get to this point? I know we've talked about it before, but.
Right. So I'm unclear of how old they are, but the technology for the auto marks is very old. They're just being replaced now by Omni ballots. Omni ballots are the only assistive voting device marking approved by the Secretary of State, as the other one that goes with our equipment, ES&S, uses a shorter ballot, so they don't accept those. There is one also with Dominion voting equipment, but we don't use that voting equipment.
Okay.
So we would need the standalone, which is this.
They're all at 20 years, because I go back, I mean, it's all at 20 years old. I remember when they came out, I was election judge at the time.
And
Now,
it's
do you
getting
have
harder.
one of these in your office or here for when voting?
Yes.
Okay. I have no other questions. Board, do you have any for Connie?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
Connie stated it in her last sentence that acceptance of the grant will benefit McLeod County citizens in our cities and townships. So with that being said, I will move adoption of Resolution 22-CB-23.
Motion made by Commissioner Smalls. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens to approve Resolution 22CB23. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Health and Human Services.
Good morning.
Morning, Barrett.
I have two items for you today. The first is to consider adopting Resolution 22CB24, approving Prime West Health as the one and only managed care organization that should provide Minnesota Senior Health Options, also known as MSHO, and Minnesota Senior Care Plus, also known as MC MSC Plus, managed healthcare services for recipients in McLeod County, which supports the recommendation of the McLeod County request for proposal review. So just a little background. Under the authority of Minnesota statute, section 256B.69, subdivision 23, the state solicited proposals for the provision of specified health care services in 87 counties to serve seniors over the age of 65 enrolled in medical assistance under MSHO and MSC Plus programs. To serve the MSHO and MSC Plus populations in one or more counties in Minnesota, the responder must successfully respond to this request for proposal and complete contract negotiations or contract amendments with the state. This contract would be from January 1st, 2023 through the end of that year, December 31st, 2023. McLeod County holds an ownership interest in Prime West Health, and 2 McLeod County commissioners serve on Prime West Health's Joint Powers Board. Prime West Health is currently the sole source payer for services provided by McLeod County to its constituents. If Prime West Health is no longer the sole source payer for these services, it's projected that there will be increased administrative costs to the county for the provision of these services.
Are there any questions for Barrett?
Yeah, any questions?
We have discussed what this really means on a couple other occasions, but I have no questions. With that, I'd make the motion to approve Resolution 22 CB 24. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion made by Commissioner Kruger, seconded by Commissioner Schmalz. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Go ahead.
Thank you. Second item is very similar. It's consider adopting the Resolution 22 CB 25, approving Prime West Health as the one and only managed care organization that should provide special needs basic care, SMBC, managed healthcare services for recipients in McLeod County, which supports the recommendation of the McLeod County request for proposal review. All the other information is the same.
Questions for Barrett on this resolution?
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I will move Resolution 22-CB-25.
Motion made by Commissioner Schmalz to approve. Is there a second? Seconded by Commissioner Nagel. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor of adopting Resolution 22 CB 25, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Employee Relations, Hannah. Good morning, Hannah.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, Board. Item A, consider approval of 6-month unpaid parental leave for one full-time Health and Human Services Child Protection Specialist starting in June of this year. This is a new employee who does not yet qualify for FMLA, which states that an employee must have worked at least 1,250 hours during the 12 months preceding the leave. Approving this unpaid leave request secures employment for this current full-time child protection employee.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second? Second. Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead.
Thank you. Item B, consider approval of hiring a temporary paralegal from June 2020 through October, or 2022, excuse me, through October 2022 in the McLeod County Attorney's Office while the permanent full-time administrative assistant is on leave.
So moved.
Motion made by Commissioner Wright to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Nagel. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Do want to just make mention, sorry, that should say full-time paralegal, not administrative assistant there in B. Apologize for the error. It's the same position. I don't think that changes anything. But
That is on the one we just...
Yep. It just it was written incorrectly.
That's fine.
Thank
fine.
you. Item C, consider approval of temporary part-time coverage, approximately 20 hours a week for within information technology IT department. The current IT technician 2 is resigning from their full-time position as of May 6th of this year. The employee is available to continue working on a part-time basis for the foreseeable future to assist with coverage and duties as needed.
Questions?
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Smalls to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Go ahead.
Last item D, consider approval to transition a part-time technical specialist 2 position in the recorder's office to full-time status. Based on budget usage the past 2 years and expected usage for 2022, this change will not have an increased impact on budgeted expenses for the recorder's office. This increase of hours has been found necessary on an ongoing basis to maintain service delivery and coverage for the recorder's office.
Mr. Chair, move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Wright. Any discussion? Hearing none, I proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Hannah, before
Yeah.
you sit down, I appreciate for some that watch this, we go through, my words again, jockeying of positions, filling, and I'd like to, commend for people watching, you guys work, employee relations and HR work really hard to fill these positions. It's a tough job. Talking with other counties, they don't all do as well. So, people may question why we do what we do, but we do a pretty good job of keeping people working, so thanks.
Thank you. Appreciate that, Mr. Chair. We have some great folks working for the county. Appreciate it.
Mr. Chair,
Go ahead.
I'd just add as we move on to the next item that these items do go through the Personnel Committee. Sometimes people don't always realize that it's more of a process than just coming to the board once a month for these deals. A lot of time is spent on them.
Again, I've said it before, I'm an older guy, so things are different today. To keep good qualified people working and coming, it's a tough job. So, again, that's why I made my comments. Thank you. Public Works, John.
Good morning.
Good morning.
First item, excuse me, is to consider a cooperative construction agreement with the city of Glencoe for improvements to the paved trails along County State 8 Highway 15 or from County Road 33 up to 212, and then along County Road 33 from County Road 2 to County Road 15. Estimated cost for this is roughly $145,000 to $160,000. We'd like to seek a not to exceed $160,000. The background on this, you recall a few weeks ago, the workshop, City of Glencoe has been interested for some time to replace those trails along those roads. Years ago, those trails, when it was constructed back in roughly 1997 or so, it was a joint project with the City of Glencoe. There was no maintenance agreements put forward at that time. But ever since we've done projects with the City of Glencoe, such as Morningside, of course, they've been 50-50. And that's what they requested for this one. The bids for the job came in at $246,000 from William Miller. That was a really low bid. So half of that is roughly $125,000, and then put some engineering on top of that, roughly $10,000. That gets us to about $135,000. We're saying an estimate of $145 to $160 just to be safe, but I don't foresee it going over that $140,000 plus or minus.
The cement, what did you say? Cement what on top of that? Or what?
Engineering on top of the
Okay.
engineering and testing fees on top of the normal construction costs from the contractor.
Okay, and here's what I know about this. It goes at least back 5 years when we did some 5-year plan meetings. It must be 4 or 5 years ago. I seen this on your budget. You had a line item in your budget to work with the 50%. I believe you and SEH put on a meeting up with was a meeting with the city and the county, and you had that projection in a number of years ago. So this has been around a while.
It's been in front of us for a while. Yeah, at one of the 5-year plan workshops, we talked about it. We had it in the budget, or we had it in the plan last year, and then we pulled it and switched it this year, and then we kept it in for this year.
I think there was some funding issues with the other half, and the just for the questions I'm getting, this is not a trail or a not trail deal. This is an agreement that we set into way before my time to take care of it, and that's what I am looking at it as, taking care of an agreement that we've done earlier.
Yeah, like I mentioned, the trail was built around 1997, I think, and of course, hasn't been touched much. The city's done some minor maintenance on it and so forth, but it's past its time and time
It's
for...
in rough shape.
Yeah.
It's not too far from mine. I went out to look at it. I mean, there's, just to make sure it was an actual, it's not in good shape. Weeds are going through.
Yeah, and like I mentioned, the low bid from William Mueller was an extremely good bid, given the bidding climate we're in, so
And my
I don't think
understanding
you'll get a
is
better price right now.
My understanding is the city has secured their funding for their half.
That's my understanding, and the city
That's my
approved,
understanding.
the city approved this agreement at their past council meeting.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
And that's what I got to point out too. I think it was like a 3-2 vote. The city of Glencoe, they had some, if you followed it at all, it seemed like, to me, from a distance, that they had some dissension regarding this. As I make my decision here, if we say no to this, then Glencoe says no, that we're not going to fund the whole thing, what does that look like? Is that some cost associated with tearing it up, and you probably haven't had much time to think about that, so forgive me.
I think at some point you'd want to look at probably reclaiming it back, just because of some, if it gets in too tough a shape if there's liabilities maybe for,
Sure.
the users.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the dangerous part about previous boards entering into agreements that,
Yeah, and we haven't found a previous, written agreement. The city looked, we looked back, so there's nothing written in stone, I don't think, back in 97. It's always been a gentleman's agreement, I guess.
And I know, again, nobody that I am aware of filed a claim, but I know that supposedly, and then the cracks are bad enough where people have fallen down on the cracks or rollerblading and whatever. Again, that's just the information that I'm aware of.
do you have any idea, again, not a fair question, but any idea how many of these agreements exist out there right now, or do they just pop up and then you got to respond to them as they come through? So, an example, a different city says the same thing, right? I mean, have you ran into a ton of these over your tenure here?
No.
Okay.
No, I mean, we've had nothing, if we have, they've been written agreements that, like we've been doing lately, ongoing
So you
maintenance.
feel better
we
that they're
covered everything.
documented?
Yeah, I don't think you're gonna have 6 other cities knocking on our door saying, replace our sidewalks and we'll give you half the money.
We have a paved trail, though, with the city of Lester Prairie that goes into the city of Lester Prairie.
Yeah, and we've, some agreements for that piece of the Dakota over there, for the somewhat
But
different
that's
trail.
documented too. It's not this where 20 years from now, the board's gonna go, what the heck were those guys doing? So.
Yeah, no, there's nothing that I'm aware of tying us back to the 97 agreement. Other
Mr. Chair,
than,
how many miles is this, the trail?
it's roughly 8,000 feet, a little over a mile, about a mile east and west, and then up 8,000, yeah.
It's from the old brewery to Morningside and then up to 212.
Yeah, south side of Glencoe on the golf course, and then north on the Morningside piece.
And that's
To
how we
212.
got involved. From the reading that I've looked back on, we got involved because it runs in the right of way of our county road. It'd be
I should
33.
clarify, the 97 project was just the portion along County Road 33. And the piece on Morningside from County Road 33 up to 212, that was built in 2005 or 2007 when we built the bridge.
Who's responsible for the maintenance?
Right now,
What person?
the city's been doing the maintenance on the trail. They've been moving snow, they've been doing the minor maintenance. We haven't done anything to my recollection on them.
So it's 250,000 for 1 mile?
That's Noel, he broke
Well,
it
about
down.
a little 8,000 feet. So, mile and a little over a mile and a quarter. Yeah, that's taking the trail, grinding it up and reclaiming it, and then putting new material on top. So essentially, it's a brand new surface. It's not a patch job.
Yeah, if you really want to break, I mean, to your point, if you want to break it down, yeah, you can divide it by 17 or 18, and that's what the cost of maintaining the trail is. But
Yeah.
Who's gonna be responsible after we do this?
Good question.
Yeah, I guess I don't anticipate doing anything other than what we've been doing, which is nothing.
But 10 years from now or 15 years from now, they come around again and we have nothing in writing.
You know, the trail is in our right of way. You know, it doesn't mean we've other core city amenities in our right of way as well, so.
Was it built as a part of our improvement of CASA 33?
It was, yeah.
I do remember,
That's
not
the
as a
north,
commissioner, I remember when it went in, and I remember just the articles, and I know it was a joint, you know, whether it was registered, I assumed that a person could dig back in the minutes, but I don't know how that helps us. I mean, it's just, I know the way it's been in the past, I don't know that I've ever seen any county workers on that trail. The city's been main, because they got some more trail that goes beyond this, and they put it together with their maintenance program.
Yep.
So
Yeah, we haven't done maintenance on, to my recollection.
to the truth of the matter, we throw snow on it and they got to move it. But I mean, if you want to get
If we go fast enough, yeah.
Well, I guess we need to maintain, I mean, I believe in the maintenance part, but it also seems like we should have something in writing moving forward, reflecting on what Commissioner Luthens has brought forward, what happens in 10 years down the road. So is there, it feels like we should have some kind of a contractor, you know, what this means down the road. 10 years from now, a seal coat would probably mean it doesn't need a complete reconstruction in 20, right? Sure. So who's going to pay for that? And hopefully the city will continue to maintain, you know, do the seasonal maintenance that has to happen on it. But should we be having more of a formal document to adopt with this that says what happens in the future, so that whoever's on the city council board, whoever's on the county board, knows what to relate back to instead of the gentleman's agreement from '97 that's kind of binded us together. So.
And I would agree with Commissioner Wright that that's probably necessary to avoid all these conversations. I mean, if we had a piece of an agreement, and that's basically what I'm doing here today, is to own up to our gentleman's agreement, and it'd be a lot easier for everybody here that wasn't around at that time to make that decision. So I don't know if it shouldn't be that hard. I don't guess, and it's up to the board's wishes on how we want to proceed with it. But
Yeah, this current agreement will just be for, of course, this project.
Yeah,
Who's on the city council that was around in 1997?
I don't think anybody do.
So where's the agreement
I
coming
think
from?
the administrator probably was.
Administration.
Yeah, the city administrator was around in '97, and there was no, like I said, we've looked, the city's looked, there was no formal agreement saying, okay, 25 years from now, who does what?
Well, I believe it.
doesn't
I believe it happened, right? You know, and that was the agreement. It just wasn't
Yeah.
documented appropriately, and here we sit, and nothing says we have to go along with it either, but it's
I don't know
a
where
difficult decision. It's a difficult decision to come up with, especially, I just don't want to put the next board in 20 years in the same position.
I agree.
And
No,
I think that's my biggest goal here. No matter what the vote is, that in the future, we don't do this to somebody else.
Well, we can, I mean, as far as looking at all our, once we get into more in-depth, looking at our trail system in general, we could come up with some formal maintenance agreements with these cities and small cities down the road. Broughton's interested now in a trail out to their Dollar General. We've been talking, some discussions about that, so we could, in future agreements going forward, when we construct them, I think we'll put that maintenance piece in there, similar to what we do with MnDOT.
I want to say that there was some, back when this was presented to me, when I first became aware of this all, when it was in your plan, and I want to say the city presented, SEH was representing the cities, just so we're clear about that, but that's the city engineers, but they had some work on their, they had done some, I don't know if they did core samples, but they did a study of the trail, of the need and why it needed help, and I don't know if in their report if there'd be some reference to an agreement or not.
No,
I don't know.
We've checked.
You have, okay.
I think going forward, we'd have to come up with a formal agreement going forward, after this.
So is it proper then to put this up for a motion today, the chance of it approve or not approve, and then at a later date come back with the agreement of moving forward, or should it be all at the same time? I guess.
If you do wait to approve this until you have an agreement, you aren't going to do it this year.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But it is appropriate to say that we ought to define what our relationship is with the city on this trail.
Okay.
Do you, again, I don't like to speculate, do you have an idea what a proper maintenance agreement would be? I mean, we could put a not to exceed 50/50, not to exceed X, because I know Mueller's put from the information I have, that was a better bid than they thought they would get, and that's probably time related as well, so.
Yeah, in your packet is the bids, I should say, and it was, I mean, it's a good bid. The low bid was, like I said, $246,000. Bear with me here. Yeah, $246,000 was the low bid. The second bid was around $276,000. So they were both of them under what the initial thoughts were. The 5-year plan, I think we had $190,000 in it as a placeholder for this project, and now we're looking at roughly 145.
And it kind of got kicked down the road. I mean, I got to be honest with anybody here or anybody watching. We kind of approved that preliminary budget for you way back, and then it got kicked down the road. And that's more what I'm looking at, just to honor our agreements that we did have, more than the subject of what we're doing here. But for whatever it's worth, that's.
Would it be appropriate to add language onto this? If it is adopted, there will be no further funding for this system until a maintenance agreement is reached between McLeod County and the city of Glencoe. Can we tie that in there or not?
I don't know if you want to restrict it to maintenance agreement, because a rebuild isn't maintenance. So until a cost sharing agreement is reached, that's fine.
Sounds better, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Go ahead.
So that's a little easier to take, this deal, thank you, because again, the future, matters as we do this. I lost my train of thought here. Oh, again, if it goes away, this board votes no, and then the Glencoe decides not to fully fund it, realizing there's a lot of caveats within that. If we had to reclaim it, what's the cost to that, best guess?
Oh, for us to put that back. $50,000, $40,000.
Okay.
I think you're low, and for whatever you can't. Every time a loader and a grinder comes out, it costs that much.
And it's a small piece. Without putting a pencil to it.
Again, I'm gonna try to be brave here to do this. I mean, it's in my district, and I'm gonna make a motion to approve not to exceed $160,000 I guess it's not a repair, it's to reclaim and replace the trail. But any further, with the caveat that any further funding would be tied to a maintenance agreement.
Cost share agreement.
Cost share agreement.
Okay.
That's fair, yeah.
With the addition of that, the second line, I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion's been made by Commissioner Kruger and seconded by Commissioner Wright to approve the reclaiming of this trail with the caveat that maintenance and, how did we say it, maintenance and service agreement be made,
Cost share agreement between the county.
be made before any other funding would go to this. Is there any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
All right, item B is to consider a quote for the full-depth reclamation of County Road 72, otherwise known as Diamond Avenue. That's from the TCW Railroad up to our County Road 3. Low quote was from All States Pavement Recycling and Stabilization out of Rogers. Estimated fee for that is $33,224.11. We did have another quote from Valley Paving for $43,825.95. A little history on that 72. That's the one, as you recall, we've closed the railroad now on that road, and so we have basically two stubs on both ends. The north end is in tougher shape than the south end. We've patched it over the years and done a lot of stuff to it, but it's just tired, and given the volume of traffic on it now, I think it's in our best interest to look at reclaiming that back. That's one we've been past discussions a little bit at the board level and a little bit with the township as far as looking at a turn back for that one. Some of the thoughts from the townships that I recall in the past were that they don't want to maintain a paved road. But they're not set up for that, which we understand. And so I think reclaiming that back will be, even for whoever does maintenance down the road, it's a better, just given the volume of traffic on it, it's a better fit for us.
John and I have worked on this for a while, and I've worked on it quite a bit, going to the township meetings, and I've virtually talked to a number, there's not that many people that live on it. Is the board is aware where this road is at, where this is, and what we're talking about? And am I unfair in saying from the railroad south, we have ongoing negotiations with what we're doing there, and that none of them seem to be troublesome right now. And the one we're getting a number of calls and spending some time out to do the north part from, I don't exactly know the township road, but from the railroad tracks to County Road 3, it's in really, really bad shape. The township does not want to take it as a blacktop. I mean, that's as far as we got in those negotiations. They would they're not have the desire to plow a hard surface road. So my thoughts when we're talking with John was in order not to waste some money, there's some talks about some centerline culverts that should be replaced, but grinding it back doesn't waste our money if we do find an agreement with the township to take it over. We do, and if we don't, we're moving in that direction so they could. The shoulders are narrow. I've been out there several times, and you guys have been out there. Our crews have been out there trying to patch. It's not really patchable. You could be out there every day.
Patching, yeah.
So that's where we are. So board John and I talked, and that's why we brought it forward. We've been on this for quite a while, and to keep trying to patch it is futile. I don't know. We've been quite a bit for the last couple of years, and it just doesn't work.
Last summer, fall, we had received a quote from actually the same outfit, and that was, if I recall, around $50,000. So now, they sharpened their pencil, knowing that Valley was in the neighborhood too. Valley Paving is going to be doing the work on County Road 1 for the reclamation. So I think made the other contractor step up and sharpen his pencil.
And that, when I just said what I said, I had some preliminary talks with the township, so we're leading in a direction that they agree with. It's still our road, we're gonna maintain it, and they'd have a better look at it if we get it into a gravel type road where they can actually figure what their maintenance costs, because neither one of us, for the amount of traffic coming on that road, want to spend that kind of money on it. I don't even know if you have a count, but there's only, 4 places on there?
Yeah.
Not that they don't count, don't get me wrong, they count fully. I get calls from, and they really come, but there's a point where you have to prioritize how we're going to move along. But That's as much information, board, as I can give you, so.
So we gotta do it. I'm gonna make a motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Motion made by Commissioner Wright and seconded by Commissioner Nagel to accept and the quote for reclaim and accept not to exceed not to exceed.
Estimated cost 33,000. Do you want to do a not to exceed 40,000?
Would you like to just amend your, put that in?
Yeah, we can do that as a not to exceed on that. Yep.
Not to exceed 40,000 a second, would you agree with that?
Yes.
Motion's been made then and seconded to not to exceed 40,000 on the reclaiming of 70, County Road 72, Diamond Avenue. Any more discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Just a couple quick updates. I sent you a note, but spring load restrictions for the folks on TV, their spring load restrictions end Friday. So we'll be taking down our signs on Thursday. County Road 1 project did close yesterday. There's been some questions about, right now they're working on the culvert south of 212, then they'll move up to the other two culverts north of 3. There's some questions about can the cross traffic, like County Road 3, can they cross number 1 to continue east and west? And right now they can. Those barricades have been open just to get across those roads, and I foresee them leaving them that way up until, the construction impedes that, especially with concrete paving and so forth. But so far it's been going good.
Yeah.
It's always just interesting the first day of the closure. A lot of Andrew's phone been ringing off the hook. So
I got a number of calls on the north end to see if they can get through, which was the best way to come to get through, and I'm not exactly sure where that cut out.
send them all our way. Yeah, we can take care of those and respond. We've had a number of talks with Lester Prairie Fire and EMS. They're just figuring out how to negotiate around stuff. So
well, our shooting sports people shoot at a lot of Glencoe people, and they've been calling which way to go. I know that they're fine with it. Just which way should they go? Rather than get up there and find a road closed. But
yeah, and the best thing we're putting updates on the website. So I think if I were to direct people, I'd send them to our construction page.
And then with that, as long as you're here, we also got the update on Chandler here.
Yeah, the J-turns start Monday, I believe. Right. They're closing those down. They're starting to work on those. And those, again, east-west traffic on 212 will be, there's no detour for that. That'll be allowed through. It'll just be lane shifts and maybe some flagging operations, but it's not going to be, 212 won't be detoured.
Any updates on the rumble strips?
I have not heard anything on that.
We're supposed to be getting them, and I don't know if you could possibly maybe take a note and check on the rumble. Because
we want to put rumbles on County Road 1 north and south of Trunk Highway 7 this summer. We're going to do that too. And I know MnDOT was getting quotes because they were going to do a different type of rumble strip.
Well, they said they were doing, the reason I bring it up is that we're getting a number of calls. For me, Morningside's getting used more than I think a lot of people's expectations. I can tell, I don't have to do a survey to tell when I'm just up there. There's a lot of people using Morningside, which is great in my opinion, but that pushes some more accidents on Morningside and 212. I know there was just closed up the other day for some. I've had some people talk about speed control on Morningside that they'd ask that we make sure to address. I don't know just what position to take if we call the sheriff's department.
Well, we've reached out to the Glencoe PD and the sheriff as well, so we've requested that in the past.
And some have requested that we thought we should, and with respectful requests to why we couldn't change to doing the roundabout before we do the J-turns, and obviously everybody in the business knows that's planned out for a number of years, and they have pushed up. They have been very good to us, in my opinion. The state's pushed up some of these projects because they really weren't supposed to be done as fast as they're doing them. So I appreciate that. But
yeah, given the different pots of funding and the whole MnDOT process, how that works, it's the environmental stuff. It's be tough to do. I think.
And again, that's why I brought up the rumble strips, because I know we got through some hurdles because the city had an ordinance or whatever they had that they didn't want that noise, and they took it off. And according to Emily or whoever I talked to, they were gonna do them, so if you could just check in on that,
I'll check with
that would help.
the traffic engineer, yeah, I'll get an update.
I have nothing else, board.
All right, thank you.
Thank you, John. County administration, do you have anything before, Sheila, before we go to calendars?
I can do mine at the end or now, which would you prefer?
What, let's do it at the end because yours are
Okay.
usually more pertinent to what we have to go through.
More detailed.
Daryl, go ahead.
Good morning. Thank you. The 19th, Tuesday, workshop after the county meeting. And then the next day on the 20th, Health Human Source Advisory Committee. And 26th on Tuesday, Buffalo Watershed. That's all I have.
Okay. Workshop after our last board meeting. Last week, Health and Human Services. The next day, interviews of candidates for the Buffalo Creek Watershed District Board. Also last week, a meeting with the Ag Association Executive Team. And yesterday, a meeting of the ARPA Fund Committee. That's it.
Mine are pretty much the same. We had our after-board workshop, and then we had on the 26th, Health and Human Services, Community Health. Also, we had a GIS committee meeting after that. Christie put on, it's always amazing to me. I'm not a technology guy, but the importance of technology today and efficiencies to spend money down the road, we're doing a pretty good job of getting that done, both for buildings and farmland and obviously our ditches. Buffalo Creek Watershed also that evening, and I did Buffalo Creek Watershed interview that evening. 427, we had some more interviews, and that night it was a Buffalo Creek Watershed board meeting. I also had an HRA board meeting, just talking about rents are going through the roof. Just for information, I talked with Adam from Winstead. We're trying to compare prices and how to either proceed with some new buildings or just how to set rates. He said they, on their new building apartments that they're putting out, I think they needed $1,300 and some odd dollars, don't quote me, just to break even. I mean, it's amazing the costs. I don't know where this is all going to end up. The cost for housing is high. I mean, we're talking about it in our veterans groups that there's displaced housing. So it's just something to keep in mind. On the 28th, I had Transportation Alliance meeting, which is Highway 212, the second phase. Basically, the conversation was the second phase from Cologne to Norwood. It is proceeding at best pace. I mean, everybody's working hard to get that through. Talking about the intersection at Bongards is one of the big points on just exactly to separate it or to make a roundabout. Highway 5 has got a big improvement there. The costs are really not prohibitive to other than our road taxes, other than to it's mostly to Carver County, but it impacts us greatly. If anybody either uses 5 or 212, you get around Arboretum, you can be backed up for 2 miles. So it is something to watch for us out here in McLeod County. I also went out to looked at JD 18, some problems we have out there and some improvements that we may try. Interviews on the 29th having to do with our new recorder. And yesterday, the second, we had our CRF meeting in the morning, and I had SWCD meeting after that. Most of my conversation, I was basically listening, but our conversation was again back to water storage. In order to keep tiling, just try to figure on land storage. And that brings me to today. Go ahead, Joe.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. After the meeting, we had the workshop. The several topics that were discussed. As always, seems like during the 2 weeks between meetings, we have several personnel and budget conversations, and that's ongoing as we start to prepare budgets for the next year. At a fairgrounds meeting, or more of a fair meeting regarding the planning and organization for this upcoming year. And I've had several, or maybe you guys have too, but several questions, and mine are kind of unique regarding some water issues in a residential neighborhood, which includes our home. So that's been a bit of a challenge, but mostly been able to defer that through the township because of where we're located. So that's it.
Go ahead, Nathan.
Thanks, Mr. Chair. I had a busy 2 weeks, so like the other commissioners, we had our board workshop after the 19th meeting, and then that evening I attended the Winston City Council meeting at their request. They annually ask me to come in and give them a report on what's happening in McLeod County. And the presentation that I gave them first started out with me recognizing Winston for the contribution they make in McLeod County. And the second was my recognition of Adam Burkles and the contribution that he makes serving on McLeod County committees, and his dedication and support is definitely appreciated at the county level. Discussion points were ARPA funds surrounding, the purchases that the county has indicated, and benefiting, everyone in the county, and they are grateful for that county action that we did take on the Armor radios. They did have questions about upcoming construction that's happening. Most of it not in their community exactly, but County Road 1, we did review the construction schedule on County Road 1 and also the intended roundabout schedule on County Road 1 and Highway 7, and talked about the construction timeline on County Road 5 extension, which does lie within their city limits. We discussed staffing changes that we're facing in McLeod County, especially those changes that come about with the retirement of our county attorney, Young, and county recorder, Lynette Schrupp. So I explained to them what the county's actions have been, especially in the recorder's position, and they seemed very supportive of the path that the county's taking. And then one of the last things that we had a discussion on was the redistricting update. Their questions were mostly, how it affects McLeod County, and how it affects our senatorial district at the state and our state representative districts, and what it's done to the county with the new districts being drawn. And then lastly, I took the opportunity to invite our new economic development coordinator, Liz Danielson, to join me at that meeting to introduce her to the Winston City Council. I think Liz did a good job at explaining, her role in McLeod County and what she's done in McLeod County. So Winston, the city of Winston is extremely grateful for the action that McLeod County took with economic development and getting Liz in place. They felt it was definitely a step in the right direction as far as their concerns were, and I thank Liz for participating in that meeting in Winston. Next day was Wednesday the 20th, Public Health Advisory Board. Commissioner Luthens said that he and I attended that meeting, and one of the takeaways from that meeting was that we plan on meeting one more time as that advisory board, and And then after that, we basically, I think we're looking at disbanding. And the feedback from that committee was that they were surprised we met as long as we did. So they recognized the fact that maybe we aren't functioning like we once had functioned previously. So I think the direction we're taking was well accepted at that meeting. Thursday, the 21st, Pioneer Land. Well, first of all, in the morning, we had a meeting that included the Virgin Township Board of Supervisors, and Attorney Young was part of it. Public Works Director Brunkhorst participated, as well as myself. And the topic of that meeting was looking at some of the turnbacks that we're trying to work through with Virgin Township. So we went away from that meeting with a basic understanding of what the county is trying to do and what Virgin Township is as well looking to do with the county. Monday the 25th, I participated in a Student Government Day at the courthouse. I thoroughly enjoyed my time with the students. Attorney Young started the day out with giving the students a primer in what will we call it, the day in the county attorney's life, and they were extremely interested. Some of the feedback that the students gave was how fun a day it was for them to get into the courtrooms, to hear the attorney, to hear the judge, to tour the jail, to tour a cell block. As far as I'm concerned, I wish it were a mandatory exercise for all of our students in McLeod County to partake of that offering. So extremely a wonderful day. Tuesday the 26th, we had our HHSC meeting here at Government Center, and then that afternoon I was asked to participate in the GIS presentation that Commissioner Kruger related to in his report. Thursday the 28th, UCAP meeting, which was held in Redwood Falls. I don't really have, there were no outstanding topics brought up at that meeting, other than it was our first in-person meeting since I've been part of the UCAP organization. So it was nice to put a live face to a name when we started meeting again. Friday the 29th, Commissioner Kruger indicated that we did some interviews here pertaining to the recorder's position. Yesterday, Supporting Hands Nurse Family Partnership had me in Olivia for a meeting, and there were some questions about some of the agenda, that Barrett had alluded to last week in her HHSC meeting pertaining to employees that were unvaccinated. And I know that people are watching, the decisions made at those levels, and they've been operating under the guidelines that if they have an unvaccinated employee, that employee is doing telehealth only and not in-person visits. So they were looking at changing that to a total of 3 options. Continue as they were doing. Option 2 was to terminate employment, and option 3 was to do masking and testing. And the trouble with option 3 was there was concern about whether they were meeting the federal guidelines if they went to the masking and testing format. Option 1 has been under the guidance of federal guidelines. So the decision was made after two different motions failed to vote, which was kind of interesting. Basically, we kept things operating as is without change. So that means The nurses that are not vaccinated are only to do telehealth visits over their internet. And I will mention that Brittany attended that meeting as well, and her input and her presence there was greatly appreciated. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Schmaltz. Mike, do you have anything to add, or?
I don't.
Sheila, you know, as long as we were on that topic, and I have to apologize, it's Student Government Day. I could not make it. I'm in the honor guard here, and we had a funeral that morning.
Yep.
And if you would, I'm sad I didn't miss. First one I missed, and I appreciate you and your staff's work to get that on. Could you just highlight us on that just a bit before you start your recording?
That's what my report is. So.
Okay.
We had Student Government Day on April 25th at the McLeod County Courthouse and Law Enforcement Center. I have a summary in front of me from Stefan because he and Liz, and mostly Stefan, did the majority of the work, I believe, unless I'm discounting Liz a bit there, but she's been doing a good job of empowering him in his new position, and I will echo Commissioner Schmaltz's sentiments about Liz. A short amount of time, and she has definitely shown us that the board made the right decision in moving forward with economic development coordinator, and things are going well. That day, it's the first time we've been able to have it since 2019. So we were missing that day, and it is a good one, and we usually do have all the commissioners there. We did our best. We had short notice. We needed to work with the judges' schedules. So thank you to those that could come. And we had 21 students from 3 schools, which is good attendance. And it actually is a good size group. Having all of the students there, Commissioner Schmaltz, please don't ever do that. That would be a nightmare. It is very nice when we have this smaller group. We've had bigger groups in the past, and then the kids don't get that one-on-one like they did with the county attorney, the judges, the deputies. If we could spread it out to the different facilities, then that would be very nice too. But the judges do a wonderful job. Thank you to Judge Maher and Judge Winter for taking their time, bringing us all into the courtroom. Thank you to Sheriff Langenfeld for bringing us all into his law enforcement center. Thank you to our county attorney, Mike Young. He took a significant portion of his morning and Lauren Johnson's morning and did a very wonderful job. Most of the really good feedback is about his presentation. I'll just read from one teacher. They said, "My students absolutely love the event. The only request is that it would have been longer." That's not bad, right? They very much enjoyed anything they saw and could not pick a favorite. We discussed it on the ride home, and it was really fun to see their reactions. All 4 said they expected a more formal type day, but they felt everyone was super approachable. They could ask questions and could actively learn without judgment. They appreciated getting to stay with their school group throughout the event. They came back and told some of the other classes what they did, and now we have students who are hoping to attend next year. That's a pretty big deal. I was with that group of students. And having them in a group, that was just a group of 5. They were able to be in the dispatch center, and though they couldn't hear anything private or critical, they were in there while 3 911 calls came in. And that was pretty cool because one of those students actually wants to be a communications officer. So thank you for taking the time to let us do that with the students. The other thing I just want to talk about very briefly is County Government Day was proclaimed on the same afternoon as our last board meeting to be last Tuesday, April 26th. So we didn't have a chance to tell you about that in advance. However, County Government Appreciation Day was proclaimed by the governor to be Tuesday, April 26, 2022. So thank you for everything that our employees do, that our elected officials do. We are very grateful, and that proclamation is online if you would like to see it. And then just lastly, we had an experienced contractor available in Minnesota who was able to come and talk to us about the board dais, I hope I'm saying that right, defective material. Unfortunately, in our project, it's the most visible thing, right? It's the only thing that's on TV all the time. So that will be repaired soon. And during that time, we will likely have to hold 1 or 2 board meetings at a different location, but I'll update you when that time frame has been identified. Thank you.
Thank you, Sheila. Do you want to just move into your different items?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Item A, consider reappointing John Brunkhorst to McLeod County Engineer, effective May 21st, 2022 to May 20, 2026. John is here today. He had to step out with someone who is here to present later in our meetings or at the workshop. So asking for board action on that.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Wright to approve the reappointment of John Bronkhorst as McLeod County Engineer.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Smalls. The reappointment would be from May 21st, 2022 through 2026, May 20th of 2026. Any discussion? Hearing none, proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I wanted to say a few nice words about John, but he's not in the room, so maybe he'll watch a video. He has large projects. We know that John Barrett and Sheriff Langenfeld have large financial responsibilities for the county that they manage each year. And I am happy that he is on our team. He's well known in his arena, and I just wanted to thank him for being a McLeod County employee. Item B, consider reappointing Chad Stewie to the Buffalo Creek Watershed District Board of Managers for a new 3-year term beginning on May 18, 2022 through May 17, 2025. The open appointment was advertised as required, and then myself, Commissioner Kruger, and Commissioner Wright met with him. He was the only one to submit a letter of interest this round, and the panel recommends reappointing Chad Stewie to this board to represent McLeod County in one of the 2 positions.
Move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel to reappoint Chad Stewie to Buffalo Creek Watershed.
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Luthens. Is there any discussion? My only discussion, reminder is that we appoint the Board of Presidents. Each county, McLeod has 2, Renville has 2, and Sibley has 1. That is pretty much our only connection to that board. I mean, they run independently. They have their levying authority. Just a comment on how that works for anybody that doesn't quite understand. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item C might be a little confusing if you're not familiar with this, so I'll try and summarize. We have 1 employee in court services, which is probation, upstairs in the courthouse. Susan Sumanik oversees that department. The rest of the employees work for the state of Minnesota. And with the upcoming retirement of Jenny Kotke, this gives us the opportunity for that person to not be a county employee and be a state employee instead, like the administrative person is downstairs for felony probation. They're both housed in our facilities. We follow statutory requirements. We've detailed this with our county attorney in very good detail for a length of time to make sure that we're handling it appropriately. So I ask that you consider transferring this court services administrative position from the county for employment to Minnesota Department of Corrections employment upon the retirement of the current staff member providing these services who will retire in June of 2022. We still are financially responsible for this administrative expense. It does not change the cost of the county, so it is essentially budget neutral. It just changes. It actually reduces some of your liability, though. When you don't have the employee on your payroll and it is their employee, then that goes to them, and then they can be in an office full of their actual coworkers and not working for a different organization. So I'm asking for approval.
The real advantage is that right now you have a person who is practically not subject to supervision just because they're in an office by themselves. Not that this person has done anything wrong or inappropriate, but it's a bad management practice.
I would move to approve.
Motion made by Commissioner Nagel to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Smalls. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll proceed to vote. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you. Item D, notification of a joint workshop with McLeod County and City of Hutchinson to discuss the Hutchinson Northeast Ring Road, the County State Aid Highway 115 Jefferson Street Southeast Roundabout, and the city's lakes, river, basin improvements. The meeting will be at 3:00 p.m. Monday, May 9, 2022, in the McLeod County Fairgrounds Commercial Building. Item E, Notification of board workshop following the board meeting on Tuesday, May 17, 2022, here at the McLeod County Government Center at 520 Chandler Avenue North, Glencoe, Minnesota. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Any other notifications or any other business that need to come forth?
No, Mr. Chair.
Open forum. Anyone wish to speak? Mr. Cook?
Thank you.
Good morning.
Morning. I sent out an email to everybody yesterday. I don't know if you had a chance to look at it, but an attachment, I could hand out a copy if you need it. Anybody?
Oh, I read it. Thank you.
Okay. Good. Yeah, it's just a follow-up from the workshops that we've had about the Dakota Trail and the possibility of submitting a grant application for the next round. So, I just put together some of the thoughts of things that have been talked about in the past and some answers to those things. Maintenance, paving, local match, issues with that. When is a local match due? And this was a reply from Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails that, you wouldn't have to spend a local match or provide that until probably 2025, if we submitted a grant in 2023.
Mr. Cook, could you please bring your mic a little bit closer?
Yep.
There you go.
There. Thank you. Sorry about that. So again, a grant or a local match, if a grant was submitted in 2023, wouldn't be actually required to be paid until 2025, possibly a little later than that. Talked about the estimated costs going from County Road 1 to Iris Road, which we talked about would make sense for the next phase. And then on the second page was just some other comments that have come up, and one was, it'd be nice if others would participate financially. So with that, our group is willing to fundraise up to a 5% match, provided that the county would commit to matching whatever funds were raised up to that 5%. So if we raise more than 5%, the county's share would just be that 5% cap. If we raise less, the county's amount would be less accordingly. The other new thing was, I've been told that the city of Hutch may be willing to contribute to the county's share of a local match. The Hutchinson has participated in some of the other expenses for the trail up to this point. The local match for the Lesser Prairie grant, there was a pre-engineering study, and there might have been a few other things too. But the city would contribute a third, on those expenses. So this would be similar to that. A third has been talked about. And again, there's some openness to doing that. If the city did that 5% maximum match of the county would be reduced to about 3.4% if the 1/3 amount was agreed on. And using 2025 estimated costs, that would be around $113,000 for the county's share. The city would pay about $56,000. There is a question about would it be better to wait till next year. So with this fundraising idea, we would request that a grant not be submitted until 2023. That would give us more time to fundraise and then especially help with larger donors to be able to budget for contributions. The county park master plan process was talked about, and gauging support on things. And as I thought about that comment later, it was like, well, what better way to show support for the trail project than through a fundraiser where people are actually contributing to that project. And then, the county's already gone through the county trail planning process, completed a master plan for the Dakota Trail, applied for and received regional designation. So the trail is eligible for legacy funds. A lot of time and effort's been spent on that. And then MnDOT has an active transportation grant, as we talked about, that could be used to pave the shoulders from the trail up to Silver Lake. And then other potential funding options I've asked about, but could American Rescue Plan dollars be utilized, or possibly federal infrastructure plan? When I talked to the Greater Minnesota Regional Parks and Trails Commission, they just said a local match cannot be state funds. Like you couldn't go and ask for bonding dollars, for example. But federal dollars, local matches, things like that, could qualify. So with that, I know you can't commit to anything right now, but just wondering if there's a willingness to move forward with this. If there is, I'd give time then for you to work with the City of Hutchinson on a more formal agreement. And that would give us time to work with our fiscal sponsor for the fundraiser part of it. And if that all comes together, then would ask that down the road, maybe a resolution gets passed that the county will proceed with a grant application in 2023, and look at doing this match agreement that we said. I know as far as the MnDOT active transportation grant, that would be down the road, and you couldn't commit to that, but maybe there was another indication of support when that time comes.
The county board can receive your input, but they can't take any formal or informal action.
I know today, right? But, okay.
Thank you as well. On second thought, I would take a hard copy. I've got it electronically.
Sure.
But I guess for now, I appreciate your report, and I'll keep it in a hard copy, and we can go through it.
Sure, as long as you got one, I'll put one in my wallet.
So with that, thanks for this, and we'll look through it either in a workshop or whenever we can.
So if it would just be nice if a decision could be made sooner or later, for the fundraising aspect. We'd like to get going on that, get all the things started. So, if this could be at a county board meeting, one way or the other, just to come to a decision, and that would be appreciated. And I hope the decision is to move forward. We've got a group that has really tried to listen to some of the concerns and comments that the board has made, and tried to come up with ideas to address those. We've had different cities express support for it, obviously through the trail plan and the Dakota Master Plan, and getting the regional designation. A lot of work and expense has been done, and effort by volunteers and staff. So this would be the next step in the process. Okay, thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Cook. We're to press relations. I see no press, hear no press. So I would entertain a motion for recess for the next board meeting to be at 9 a.m. Tuesday, May 27th, here at the McLeod County Government Center, 520 Chandler Avenue in Glencoe.
Mr. Chair, I move.
Motion made by Commissioner Luthen, seconded by Commissioner Small. We are in recess.